Hello guys and gals, and this is going to be part 3 of Phantasmagoria. Not to be confused with Phantasmagora. This one is spelled Fantas, as in fantasy. And it covers fantastic creatures. And as always, the front says, an atlas of fabulous creatures, enchanted beings, and magical monsters. Now, looking at my list back here, I organized everything, and in the process, probably lost everything I needed. Anyways, according to my notes here, this one will be posted on July 20th of 2020. But I'm not sure. A lot can change. Anyways, we left off last time. I think we read about gnomes. Or have we read about gnomes? No. Oh, we were 2 gnomes. That's right. Last time we read about dwarves, and Rumpelstiltskin was depicted as a dwarf. And about the evil King Albrecht. Albrecht, king of the dwarves. And we read about all that stuff. But now, we are ready for gnomes. And by the way, this is a book by, copyright 2009, by Julia Bruce. And she took a lot of time to compile all these stories and stuff, and I really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to read about gnomes. And I think that's a squirrel. I think that's a squirrel. Anyways. Gnomes are different from other little people of folklore. Only 500 years ago, a doctor called Paracelsus invented their name to describe spirits of the earth. But stories of gnome-like creatures go back much farther. Although they are similar, gnomes should not be confused with either goblins or dwarves. Yes, they are different in World of Warcraft. Fantastical fact. Bankers in Switzerland are often called gnomes because they look after large amounts of money the same way that gnomes guard hoards of gold. Okay, I didn't realize that. I guess that we know what we're going to be going over. And there we have some gnomes working and stuff like that. Okay, now let's get to the text. It says, above, in 1917, a young girl called Frances Griffiths claimed to have taken a photograph of a gnome dancing for her cousin, Elsie Wright. Okay. Today, gnomes are thought of as pleasant-looking creatures, only about 6 inches tall, 15 centimeters. 16 inches, 15 centimeters tall. With white beards and brightly colored clothes, males wear red caps and females wear green. Like dwarves, gnomes will often have a hoard of gold or treasure that they guard closely as underground dwellers with special abilities. Gnomes can walk through Earth as easily as we can walk on top of it, because sunlight turns them into stone. Gnomes only come to the surface at night, so you won't often see them, though some people say they can wander above ground in daylight by turning themselves into toads. Gnomes are generally kindly souls. They will always help trapped or injured animals and enjoy gardening and tending plants. Oh, I thought that's what that picture was right there, but I don't think that squirrel is injured or trapped or anything. Okay, let's see. A gnome by any other name. Although the word gnome is quite new, stories of gnome-like creatures have been told across Europe for hundreds of years. In medieval times, gnomes were thought to be tiny hunchbacks ruled over by King Gob, who had a magic sword. In German stories, their king was called Rubazal. Let me zoom in on that. Rubazal. He was kind to good people, but would punish anyone who made fun of him. In Iceland, gnomes are called Vatir. Zoom in on that. Vatir. No one in Iceland wants to disturb the Vatir. So if a road is likely to run through a place where they live, it will be diverted to leave them in peace. The Alps, the highest mountains in Europe, are home to a race of gnomes called the Barbegazi. From the French barbe, meaning beard, and glacis, meaning ice. So ice beard. They dress in white fur and have icicles hanging from their long white beards. The Barbaigazzi have huge feet, which they use as skis or snowshoes, and they like nothing better than surfing atop avalanches and playing in the snow. These caretakers of the mountains are kindly towards humans as long as they treat the environment with respect. They will give a warning hoot if an avalanche is coming and even dig people out of the snow. Well, that's nice of them. It says here, garden gnomes. Pottery gnomes are popular garden ornaments. These comical, brightly colored figures are usually shown fishing or gardening. The very first garden gnomes were made in Germany over 150 years ago. They were inspired by local legends that said gnomes liked to help in the garden at night and were turned to stone during the day. Garden gnomes soon became popular in Germany, France, and Britain. Today there are over 25 million garden gnomes in Germany. That's about one for every family. The oldest garden gnome in Britain is called Lampy and is worth up 1 million pounds. He doesn't weigh 1 million pounds, he weighs 1 million pounds. Now it says left. Kindly gnomes live in underground where they often keep hoards of gold. They are friends with woodland creatures and keen gardeners. Good. Okay. Let's move on. Now we have another map here. I don't know how we want to do this. If I'm supposed to zoom in on the map or what. But we're just going to read the text here. It says, Wonder Workers. Throughout the centuries, there have been people who are different from those around them. Who have had special powers, either inborn or learned, that set them apart. Some have magical abilities. Others might be able to speak to the dead or walk in the world of spirits. Some, like certain wizards or the mysterious jinn, are not even human at all. How real are their powers? Enter the world of magic, the domain of witches and wizards, shamans and spirit walkers, and decide for yourself. Get into what I am now. Cool. A spirit walker, by the way. By that I mean a dream walker. But anyways, in the Middle East there's jinns and then witches like everywhere, and sorceress Circe in Greece, and we're going to go over all of these, but if people actually want me to zoom in more on the map and pay attention to it more, then I will. Maybe have a video just dedicated to the maps. I don't know. We're going to talk about witches and enchantresses. The word witch comes from an Old English word meaning to bend or change, and witches are people who can bend or change reality by magical means. Witches take all sorts of forms depending on where in the world they come from. But the one thing that they all have in common is the ability to perform magic, sometimes for good and more often for evil. Okay, I wonder if we're going to get into Baba Yaga. Okay. Anyways, fantastical fact. Men can be witches too. Oh yeah, male witches are sometimes called warlocks. Yeah, I knew that. Says hapless Hansel and Gretel, lost in the woods, approach the gingerbread house of the wicked child-eating witch in an illustration of the fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. Okay, that's kind of what I thought that was. That's Hansel and Gretel. Okay. Almost every country has its own story about witches and witchcraft. In Europe and North America, witches are usually old, ugly crones who fly on broomsticks and cook up wicked spells in their cauldrons. They may have animal companions called familiars, such as cats, owls, and toads. People in medieval times believed witches' familiars were really demons in disguise. In folk tales such as Hansel and Gretel, witches often had a taste for eating children. Some stories show witches as a beautiful enchantress who are born with magical powers and may even be immortal, such as the beautiful Circe of Greek legend. Over here, there's Circe. Witches of the Navajo people of North America are usually men and have the ability to shapeshift by wearing the skin of an animal, or of the animal they wish to become. In African folklore, witches look just like ordinary people and might not even realize they have magical powers. India has many tales of witchcraft. In one story, an ugly old witch shapeshifts into a beautiful woman. Okay. And marries a king. After their wedding, he finds his horses, cows, and even elephants are all disappearing. It turns out his greedy witch wife has been swallowing them whole. I'm trying to wrap my mind around how she could swallow an elephant. Okay, maybe I don't want to know. Okay, it says here, the traditional image of a witch in ragged clothes and wearing a pointed hat, riding astride a broomstick, is hundreds of years old. So that's an old image, in other words. Broomsticks and cauldrons. Some witches, like the Mananangle, I don't know how to pronounce that, Manananangle, a sorceress from the Philippines, can fly. The Manananangle splits herself in two, and her top half flies off to terrorize people. But most witches need something to fly on or in, such as broomsticks. This idea probably started hundreds of years ago because brooms were handy and commonplace. Some witches have even been known to fly on pitchforks and spades. In Russia, the horrifying witch Baba Yaga flies around in a mortar, a vessel for grinding herbs. I did know that, too. Her house has chicken feet. The other thing that witches do is cast spells. Magic that makes things happen or change. Some witches cast spells with just the power of their minds, a wave of their hand, or a muttered incantation. Others use magical brews containing disgusting ingredients such as bats' wings, rats' tails, and dragon's blood, often concocted in large black cauldrons. Just like broomsticks, cauldrons were common household items turned to sinister use by witches. Now, we're going to read about Circe and Odysseus. In Greek legend, Odysseus was a hero who had many adventures on the long voyage home from a great war. One day his ship landed on an island where Circe, a beautiful enchantress, lived. Odysseus set a party of men to explore the island. They came to Circe's palace, and she offered them shelter and food, but she drugged their drinks and turned them into wild pigs. Luckily, one man escaped to tell Odysseus what had happened. Odysseus rushed to the palace. On the way, he was met by the god Hermes, who gave him a magic plant to protect him against Circe's witchcraft. When Circe's spell did not work on him, she was terrified. He threatened to kill her unless she turned his men back. So she did. In the end, Odysseus and his men stayed on the island, and Odysseus and Circe had 3 sons. I didn't remember that part, but cool. Okay, it says here, this picture right here. Right. Beautiful enchantress Circe was the daughter of Helios, the sun god, and Hecate, the goddess of the moon, and witchcraft, from whom she undoubtedly got her magic powers. Okay, we can probably read another one here. Witches on trial. Okay, let's we'll look at this picture right here, I guess, while I read this page. People have been frightened of witches and witchcraft for hundreds of years. In the Middle Ages, in Europe, more than 200,000 people were executed for practicing witchcraft. Amazingly, in some parts of the world, witch hunting still goes on today. It was no fun being a child in the Puritan village of Salem, America. In 1692, Puritans were God-fearing Christians who followed very strict religious rules. They thought playing games was wicked, and children were expected to be seen and not heard. So when 9-year-old Betty Paris started acting very strange, throwing fits, making weird noises, and crawling under furniture, the grown-ups took it very seriously. Soon several other girls began acting the same way. They said that they had been bewitched, and they accused 3 women of witchcraft, including Tituba, a slave in Betty's household. Tituba said a mysterious dark man had made her do wicked things, such as riding in the air on a pole and signing the devil's book. Signing the devil's book. Okay. Okay. We're at an impasse here. We're going to look at this picture here. There's the Puritans, and what's going on here? The wild accounts of demons and witchcraft given by the young girls of Salem was probably inspired by a servant's voodoo. I think it's supposed to be a version of voodoo tales. And, okay. Flying accusations. No, or actually, we can do this first. This picture that we've been looking at, let's go on. Hundreds of years ago, witches were believed to practice black magic to be able to fly, to worship the devil, and wild gatherings called sabbats, and to have evil spirits called familiars as companions. Okay. So I guess that's that. Okay. Flying accusations. This confession and the girls' continued bizarre behavior and accusations whipped up a witch-hunting frenzy. In the end, over 150 people were imprisoned for witchcraft, including a 4-year-old girl and an 80-year-old man. 19 people were hanged, and then the girls began accusing people in other villages, too. They finally went a step too far when they pointed the finger at the wife of the governor, the man in charge. He had the trial stopped and released everyone. The nightmare was over as suddenly as it had begun. But why did the girls do it? Some think they were influenced by stories of voodoo. I'm going to pronounce it voodoo. I'm not for sure how it's pronounced. But I think it's a version of that. Told to them by Tituba. Others that was simple rebellion that spiraled out of control. We'll probably never know the complete story. Okay. How to identify a witch. Let's go over that. When witch hunting in Europe was at its height, all these were thought to be signs of being a witch. As you can see, few people were safe. Having a mole or mark on the body, owning a black cat, talking to yourself, talking to animals, spinning around, having red hair or freckles, having unusual eyes. Well, for me, I used to own a black cat. I do talk to myself all the time because I'm a YouTuber. I talk to animals. I talk to the squirrels. I don't spin around very often. And I probably have unusual eyes. So, hey, boy, I'm glad I don't live back then. Oh, boy. Witchfinder General. In 1647, a man called Matthew Hopkins decided it was his duty to find and destroy all witches in England. At that time, the country was in the middle of a civil war, and Hopkins took advantage of everyone's fear and mistrust. He styled himself Witchfinder General and went from village to village getting people to accuse their neighbor of witchcraft. Anyone remotely unpopular or suspicious could find themselves put on trial. Hopkins tested them for witchcraft, tortured them, and examined their bodies for birthmarks or blemishes. Which he said were marks of the devil. He ordered the deaths of over 230 people, charging handsomely for their services, for his services. But this was his undoing. People got tired of paying him, and the trial stopped. That's an interesting picture. Okay. I guess we got time for another one. Let's talk about wizards and magicians. What's next? Oh, famous wizards. Okay. Okay, let's read this fantastical fact first. And we're going to do the whole... I think that's Harry Potter. I'm not sure. No, that's not Harry Potter. That's something else. Okay. Magicians and conjurers today who do magic tricks for entertainment don't claim to use real magic. Their tricks are illusions, using sleight of hand, stealthy movements, and that deceive the eye, and other clever techniques. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. Wizards and magicians are people with mysterious and magical powers. Some learn their magic skills, while others are born with special powers. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that Elsa in Frozen would probably, and Elsa's mom also would qualify for this. They were born with magical powers. And if you've watched Frozen 2, then you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah. Anyways, here. Not all And not all wizards are men. Some are women, and some wizards are not human at all. Okay. Wizard means wise, and wizards are often thought of as wise old men with long white beards who have spent a lifetime acquiring knowledge and skills in magic. But originally, a wizard was any wise man or woman. Hundreds of years ago, almost every village in Europe had its own wizard. At that time, people believed that their misfortunes, such as failed harvests, accidents, and illness, were caused by curses, demons, or simply by someone wishing them bad luck. It was a wizard's job to sort these things out by casting out demons and removing curses. They would also do fortune-telling, divining, finding things, in other words, healing, and spellcasting. In India and China, wizards were more concerned with honing their own powers than helping others. Indian fakirs, we'll highlight that, fakirs, I think it's pronounced faker, fakir, for example, tended to spend their time away from other people developing skills such as snake charming and levitation. Some Chinese mystics practiced wushu, martial arts, with such total dedication that their abilities became magical, allowing them to fly through the air and use weapons with total accuracy. And let's finally get to this. It says, in this German story of Dr. Faustus, the main character sold his soul to the devil in return for 24 years' worth of knowledge and magical power. He lived to regret it. When his time was up, a host of demons came and dragged his soul to hell. Wow, that's not PG at all. Okay, here, know your wizards. Wizards are known by a lot of different names. Here's a quick guide to know what they mean. Mages are extremely wise wizards who want to understand the entire universe. Sorcerers can perform magic without any spells or rituals. Enchanters create illusions to mislead or control others. Necromancers can talk with the dead and create zombies. Mystics have impressive psychic and mental powers and control over their own bodies. Alchemists try to find the secret of eternal life and how to turn ordinary metal into gold. Conjurers call up demons and spirits. Of course, some wizards and magicians can do all of these things. Okay, let's read about real-life wizards. Oh, then we'll read about alchemy, I guess. There have always been real people who have practiced magic and wizardry in various forms. Dr. John Dee, 1527 to 1608, for instance, was like a cross between a magician and a scientist. In his time, people explained lots of things that we understand scientifically today by the power of magic. Dee was a mathematician, alchemist, see box below, an astrologer, and he became an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I of England on such matters. Dr. Dee was accused of witchcraft, but was saved from persecution because of his royal connections. Nicholas Flamel was an alchemist. He was born in France in 1330 and was supposed to have discovered the secret of immortality. The story goes that when his coffin was opened by grave robbers, there was no body, because he was immortal. Flamel had faked his own death and carried on living in his own city of Paris in secret. Now, let's read about alchemy real quick. Alchemists believe in the existence of a philosopher's stone, a magical substance that could turn ordinary metal into gold, cure disease, and make you live forever. Today, scientists tell us that such things are probably impossible. But hundreds of years ago, alchemists truly believed they could find the answer to these secrets through spells and experiments. In many ways, alchemists were the forerunners of today's scientists. They came up with theories and carried out experiments to try to prove their ideas. Alchemy can be traced back to ancient Egypt. It was also practiced in China, India, and Arabia. In Europe, many alchemists were persecuted as wizards. It says above, alchemists working in a laboratory. We have time for one more, I think. Let's read about some famous wizards. It's probably going to go a little bit over, but I have to just adjust myself here. Famous wizards. Okay, I recognize some of the... Oh, yeah, Harry Potter, of course. Okay, famous wizards. Wizards have appeared in myths, fairy tales, and modern stories for centuries, in roles ranging from hero to villain. They also often play parts as teachers or guardians. Merlin is probably one of the most famous wizards in the world. He is well known as as the wise magician who served the legendary King Arthur of England in the court of Camelot, but there are many other tales in which he is very different, even terrifying. The stories that follow are just one version of his life. Let's read this fantastical fact first. It says, in some of the oldest tales about him, Merlin is called by several different names, including Emeries, Ambrosius, Myrddin, and Lilocan. Okay. Let's read about Merlin and King Arthur. Well, let's first see what this picture is about first. The sorceress Nimue enchants Merlin, sitting him into a deep sleep so she can read from his book of spells. Okay, Merlin and King Arthur. Merlin was the son of a nun and a demon. Wow. The moment he was born, his mother plunged him into holy water to try to rid him of any evil that may have inherited from his father. When he grew up, Merlin became the friend and helper of English King Uther Pendragon. Uther fell in love with Igraine, the wife of the Duke of Cornwall, but she was having nothing to do with him. Uther asked Merlin to use his magic to enable him to spend the night with her. So Merlin enchanted Uther to make him look like the Duke and took him to Igraine. She was fooled by the disguise, and a child, Arthur, was born of their union that night. This is what happened in Excalibur, by the way. The Excalibur movie, also in the book by John Jakes, I believe, called Excalibur. Merlin knew it was Arthur's destiny to unite the country, which was divided by a war. To keep him safe, Merlin took Arthur when he was born and gave him to a foster family, so neither his family nor Arthur himself knew who he really was. Merlin was able to watch over him as he grew up. Arthur's destiny was finally revealed when he pulled a magical sword from where it was embedded in a stone. Something only the future king could do. Once Arthur was king, Merlin helped him bring together a band of brave and good knights, the Knights of the Round Table. Under Arthur's leadership, they brought peace to the country for many years. Merlin was Arthur's guide and helped throughout his life. But even he could not prevent Arthur's eventual death. He was killed by his own son Mordred, who wanted to be king in his place. Merlin did foretell, however, that Arthur would be healed and come to Britain's aid once again. Merlin's own death came at the hands of an enchantress named Nimue, or Vivian. Nimue fell in love with Merlin, but he believed her to be evil and rejected her. She finally tricked him by turning herself into a lovely young maiden. Merlin was enchanted by her beauty, but when he embraced her, she turned them both into an oak tree. They remain there entwined to this very day. Okay, and in this picture we have Gandalf the Grey. Gandalf the Grey is the good wizard in J.R.R. Tolkien's stories of Middle-earth, The Hobbit, and The Lord of the Rings. Gandalf guides the other characters on their quest to destroy a powerful ring and save Middle-earth from the evil Sauron. Okay, and we have one more entry here, and it's about Harry Potter. It says, in the immensely popular Harry Potter series books by J.K. Rowling, there exists a parallel wizarding world where witches and wizards go about their daily lives hidden from the normal and muggle world. Harry is the hero of the books, which recount the lot of his life growing up at Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft. Here, he makes friends and enemies, learns his craft, and fights the forces of evil, in particular the devilish Voldemort, a terrifying wizard who killed Harry's parents when Harry was a baby. The books are full of weird and wonderful characters, scary monsters, and thrilling adventure. Like any good hero, Harry has to go through many trials in which his special powers are tested to the very limit. Does he succeed in defying Voldemort? You'll have to read the books to find out, or watch the movies. Boy Wizard Harry Potter casts powerful spells, yeah. And that's where we're going to leave it. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, this has been Phantasmagoria by Julie Bruce. And if you want to support me in any way, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.